All right. Hello, everybody. We are going to get started here momentarily. I'm going to let some people filter in. Say hello in the chat. Hello, Wet Sand. Mohammed, Code It, what is up? Mr. Yeth says his submission is at position 14 in the Discord server. I think we should definitely be able to get to that one. All right. Let me move this over so we can see the chat a bit more. All right, we already got a lot of submissions. Probably won't even get through all these, even what's here, and it's going to keep growing. So, moral of the story, you have to idle. And when I mention the news, I would do a string ping role, so you have to assign yourself the string ping role. You'll see about an hour or 30 minutes before I go live, I tell people to hurry up and submit, because I take it first serve, or first come, first serve, rather. All right. Awesome. I will say this. I hope this is, I'm going to strive to make this a good quality stream, but I am sick. This sucks. Yesterday my lungs felt weird. Woke up this morning, still felt weird. You know, because I did run yesterday, and I thought maybe it was the cold weather. Yeah, now I have skin sensitivity. I did have COVID like 3.5, 4 months ago. If some of you remember that, I was streaming then. I doubt it. I have another one, but it could be the new, Omicron variant. So whatever. All right. Here we go. All right, so for those of you that are new to this, essentially it's a live UI UX review, where essentially you take a look at the YouTube description for instructions on how to submit your design, something that you created. It could be a Figma prototype, it could be an Adobe XD prototype, it could be a live website that's live essentially, and you submit it here in the negative space submissions, and I take them as they come. And so we'll also usually do a rating from 1 to 10, 1 being the worst and 10 being best in the community, just to make it interactive. And yeah, so one final thing before we get started. During this live stream, which is something I did last week, which a lot of you took advantage of, is there is if you look at the top line of YouTube description, there's an exclusive 22% off for 2022 coupon code that you can get for my new UI UX learning platform, which just released on the 4th of this month, so a week and a half ago essentially. And it's doing really well. Very excited about it. I no longer have to rely on YouTube income because it's done quite well. So yeah, you're going to learn how to design awesome looking websites and apps, essentially user interfaces, all within Figma. And there's videos, there's 16 hours of videos. There's over 40 UI tests. And if you're not sure what that is, click play now. It's a free game to check out some of those tests. And then there's also Mentor, which is an optional subscription service for $29 per month, in which I will review your design. And we've already had over, if I show you the stats, 313 submissions. Now, of course, that counts the pre-launch people from 3 months ago. But they're really, I have 32 submissions waiting for me to review. So a little bit later in the stream, I'll actually do one of these reviews live so that you can see how the Mentor program works. All right. Awesome, Wet Stand. Awesome. Thank you very much for that testimonial. Okay, so let's get started here. Very first one. Now, I'm excited about this first one. I didn't look at the website yet, but 15-year-old web developer reminds me of myself back in the day. When I was 15, it was 1999. I'm so old. Anyway. Here's my portfolio. What do you think? I was aiming for a clean, modern, but impressive vibe with no unnecessary info. All right, sounds like you got a good head on your shoulders for being 15. And it was built with just WordPress, which is fine. I saw somebody crapping on WordPress in there, and you know what? You can have $1 million internet business with WordPress. So yeah, don't listen to them. All right. So, all right, we have some mouse interactivity. We have a little delayed sort of mouse cursor that's falling around. Nightwolf Nightwolf. Okay. So the first thing before I scroll down it's problematic about this issue here. It's not necessarily an aesthetic design issue. It's not an appearance issue. It's an issue of addressing what this website's about. So you've dedicated the whole hero section. It's 100 viewport height here in CSS, as I could see, and we don't know what is happening here. If I was a potential client, I would say, what is Nightwolf? What is this website about? A lot of people will bounce. So if you integrate Google Analytics or any other analytics script into your website, you'll see a stat called bounce ratio or bounce. And that means how many people visit this page and just leave. So that means they bounced, right? You've heard that terminology, the slang before. Your goal is to have a low bounce ratio. You don't want a high bounce ratio. You want a low, like 20%, 10%. That means you want people to click through to yet another page and just not leave after visiting the first page. This would have a high bounce ratio, I'm telling you right now. So let's scroll down. So what I'm saying here essentially is you need to address what this is, and that's usually done in the hero section with a strong headline copy and also a sub headline and maybe a relevant image of some sort. So this could be like a clan website for a gamer. I don't know. So we don't want to let people guess. All right. We have a major issue with contrast on these cards. You can barely see, if I zoom up here, this type. All right, especially with how small it was. You want to make sure that contrast is increased. So let me get up my dev tools and let me dock it to the proper spot right here. So if we do this, look when we hover here in the dev tools of Chrome, if we hover over this type, the contrast is 1.83. For small text like this, it needs to be 4.5 to 1. So you have to really increase that. So we could do it right here real quickly in... Oh no, we just integrated a live chat. Where is my CSS at? Where is my CSS at? There's styles. There we go. So we take this right here, color. We got to at least to like right around here. Now, if we hover over it again, we take our selector. Now it's at 7.22. It's probably hard to see that because it's so small, but you want your contrast ratio to be higher than that. All right, let's get this scale back down. There's people. We just integrated a live chat feature on DesignCourse, and somebody's messaged me. I should have turned that off. So want to find out more, say hi. It just says name here, and then next button. So that's kind of strange. It looks like you have a multi-process or multi-step form here just for contacting. Don't do that. Get all of your form elements right there. All you need essentially is two. You need not necessarily a name. You want an email and the message itself. That way you can get back to the people as well. All right, so 1 being the worst, 10 being the best. What do y'all think this person should get for a rating? Let me know. Hopefully the stream quality is a lot better. Last week it was horrendous. Afterwards, what fixed it was just completely unplugging my router and my modem. But yeah, we were having major issues. Hopefully everything's fine now. All right, so some people said 6, 7, 8, 6.5, 7.2. This is the best section of the design. I like the cards overall. Again, you just want to boost that this section, the contrast up, maybe put more white space underneath this headline. So yeah, also this person's 15 years old, but it is what it is. I'm going to judge it for what it is. I don't care how old the person is. I'm going to give this here a rating of maybe like a 5.9 to 6. Just because it's mainly the issue of not addressing what's happening here. So, all right, thanks a lot for that submission. Keep at it, trust me. I have a video on my YouTube channel. If you do a channel search, just type in portfolio and you'll find one where I looked at my work from 1999 and like a year or two after that. It is it's horrendous. I'm just letting you know. I'm not saying your design was horrendous. Mine certainly was. All right, next up, did this person comment? Congrats on the launch of DesignCourse. Thank you very much. Here is my 2022 portfolio, hoping I made an improvement. Now, unfortunately, I do so many of these reviews, I can't remember if you submitted something before. So I'm just going to judge this as is. All right, so normally I'd say this contrast is lacking here with this really bright lime green, and you might want to try to darken it just a few shades down. But it is large type and it's very bold type, so you can kind of get away with it. However, this little typewriter effect, well, I'm just kind of looking at the speed and seeing how long it stays. Maybe make those words stay a little bit longer. Home, my work, client, contact, all this stuff is purple. I would like to see these buttons up here, make them black, just so you create a little bit of separation, color separation up there. Looking at the rest of this, pretty colorful, I have to say. Maybe take the width of these elements right here and bring them in a little bit more white space so that they're not so close together. Do as best you can to structure these so that your alignment, notice how this top line is slightly down from this line, and this is down even further. Try to structure your CSS so that they're all on the same line. And I know that's difficult because right now you have different size icons, and that's what's creating that issue, but it's still achievable. Now I like this section. Everything here that I see is pretty solid. Take that Behance icon, maybe get rid of that little white space right there. But this is a really solid thumbnail gallery section. I really like it. Very nice white space. Not sure about this level of gray for the background because it's almost the same as the background color itself of the website. So take this background, maybe we'll boost it up just a little bit higher, barely noticeable. There we go. That's F5, F5, F5 for that hex code. That's what I would personally go with. It's still enough of a difference here, but it's also still enough of a contrast here. Looks like a good form. You have labels that are actually using the label element. Yeah, pretty solid here. So what do y'all think this person should get for a rating? 1 being the worst, 10 being the absolute best you've ever seen in your entire life. Actually, I'm not doing too bad. I have energy, even though I am definitely sick with something. Futuristic font suggestions. I don't know. I don't have any suggestions. I think that if you try to go with something that looks real futuristic, like that's only going to apply to a very small, limited number of use cases, like a science fiction novel or something like that. So this is definitely, I'm going to say, a bigger improvement than the first. It's going to be rated. It's going to be rated higher than the first entry. We can always check out responsive. All right, this looks good right here. Yeah, the responsive design is perfect from what I can see. All right, so I'm just going to rate this one a solid, it's like 7.4 or 7.5. And it looks like, you guys are pretty much agreeing with me. All right, so next up, why did I click that? I'm so used to clicking to see my orders, to see how much money I made with design. Oh man. Okay. So next up, this is just a landing page I've made because I was away from the coding for quite a long time to brush up on my skills. I made this. All right. So it looks like it was just, something to make for the sake of making, essentially, which is completely fine. All right. So next up, let's build something amazing with GPT-3 OpenAI. All right. One thing I don't like is the actual width of this column, this type-based column right here. You want to take that and cram it in a little bit. So if I get out the inspector here, and we'll see the container. All right, so I'm not sure exactly. Yeah, I may not be able to do it easily, but you want to, especially in this resolution, condense that in because this is a quite long form. It's a little bit stretched. So I think it'll be a little bit better. Even get this here, this headline into 3 lines of type rather than just 2. Outside of that, I'm not quite sure how I feel about the type here. Maybe make this a little bit more on the white side, not 100% white. You can have this blue, but I think it's just a little bit too saturated, especially with the the gradient that you have up here. So it makes it a little bit busy just in terms of color. Looking down here, lurking down here. I guess that makes sense too. Looking down here, a little bit of I actually like this interesting layout of the type. However, I think it's lacking visual hierarchy, typographically speaking. So that means we're going to click on this and change this hard-coded absolute pixel value, which try to use rem units. 4 rem, 3.5 rem units, like something right around there. And then for your line height, let's go to like 3 rem. No, let's do 3.8 rem. I like that. Now, of course, it's getting cut off. That's not my intention. Maybe even make it extend a little bit longer out to the right. Also, you have leading, which is your line height right here. It's a little bit extended, a little bit too much. So I would reduce that line height and maybe even increase the font size as well. Let me reset this to 100%. I do like this cool, sort of gradient that's applied on here. I think to simplify that, you want to take this type and make that white or something that's more neutral. Now, it seems like these titles are in relation to this column, but there's too much white space between them. Bring them together. And also get rid of the slightly extended tracking, which is the letter spacing. Just leave it to the default font behavior. All right, so 1 being the worst, 10 being the best. What do y'all think this person should get for a rating? Waiting for the chat. And by the way, only send 1 rating. Don't spam multiple times. One is enough. One message. All right. So I'm going to give this here a rating of, especially if we look at it. I'm just going to say something like a 6.8 or so, 6.5. I think that's pretty fair. All right. Pretty much agree with everybody. All right. Next up, Sam Nan. Prototype not found. Yeah, unfortunately, it says prototype not found when I click that link. So sorry, Sam Nan. Sam Nan's a regular, long-time regular in the YouTube channel. Maybe if you try to correct that, I'll go back to it and just let me know in the chat here. Next up, this is from Carl. Looking forward to improving my site. All right. Electronics tutorials. I've always wanted to get into electronics, like actual this stuff, the capacitors and all that. Okay, so a few issues here that I can notice right off the bat. I would use a different typeface. What font is that? It's Arial. So it must be a really thick font weight of Arial. And having them, especially on a large resolution, be 100% fluid, it makes it kind of hard just to use and access this navigation because there's so much white space between it. Instead of making them spaced out based on the percentage or the width here, I would probably just condense them all, next to each other and right align them and keep it simple. I would also choose a different font and or make it so that they're not quite as bold because they're real blocky. Next up, I would say this right here, we have some typographic issues with this hero section. I would move this more to the center, and this right here, I would say probably doesn't belong in this section. So I would maybe rethink, maybe place that in a different area right here somewhere. As far as the type or the rest of the layout's concerned, if you want to have a more unique, interesting layout, each of these sections could be really expanded upon. I've seen some people for desktop, they would do 100% viewport height for each section, make like a unique multi-column sort of layout, especially for a large resolution like this, because you have a lot of available space, and you can make it more interesting. Additionally, when you have all this type right here, I can see it's bold. I would probably not make it bold by default. Bold should be for elements that you want, for typographic elements that you want to be bold or to emphasize. So that's a couple things right there just to note. I would get rid of the high contrast, thick border between them as well. Again, just maybe use background color instead, or even a photograph, watermark, or illustration. There's a lot of ways to do it. You just want to apply texture of some sort. All right, so, oh, and also, this is not going to work on mobile. Maybe it's not finished yet, but clearly major issues on mobile here. So 1 being the worst, 10 being the best. What do y'all think this person should get? Awesome, T20S Grunt. Grunt is here for pretty much every single live stream and has given me money almost every live stream. Very much appreciated. So I actually kind of do like this, the color and stuff of this footer. I would probably move this down away from the footer navigation here, the logo that is. So for what this is, I'm going to do like a 5.2 or so. I think that's pretty fair and average based on what the chat is saying. So Mo Salah, let's check out this one. Is that Nunito? I really love me some Nunito font. Let's see. It is. All right. So this is what I mean by texture. Like if I zoom up, you can see these little graphic design based elements, the little code / brackets right here, or the opening, closing HTML, whatever you want to call them. It's just something that makes it a little bit more interesting. Maybe even add a few more or a few different types of these little graphic design assets, and that way this texture kind of breaks up the monotony of all the white space. Outside of that, it looks like a good, solid, simple navigation. I like this as well. I like this. Good separation. That's visual hierarchy again. This is very small or in relation to the size of this, and it's also colored differently and not bold. At least I don't think it's bold. My projects contact me. That's all good. Maybe put this section right here, like right along this invisible line, maybe in a different sort of very slightly off color background. That way you can kind of separate it just a little bit more. I'm not sure how you structure your HTML. Maybe I will be able to do it. Oh, maybe I can. So if I do background, let's see what it looks like. I'm just gonna put something ugly for now, horrendously ugly. And then that way I get access to the color picker. And we'll just grab an adjacent color, and then we can go all the way up, like real light. We have a little bit of color in it, like right around there. So now if I close this out, my intention would be for this to expand all the way out to the right and left, and also have that graphic that showed up that overwrote the graphic that was here. But at least we would have, and I would also push it down a little bit more. But that way you kind of structure this section right here, because it's two columns, and it's a different section than your hero section up here. I like the cards. All right. I would probably get rid of this little type something placeholder value. Not necessary. It says message. They know it's there. And same thing with here. Get rid of these placeholder values. These are all pretty self-explanatory. You want to also capitalize your if, because your I in if, because that looks unprofessional. And then also move down, create more white space underneath this paragraph. Other than that, pretty solid. So what do y'all think this person should get? 1 being the worst, 10 being the best. All right, so some people are saying 7, 6, 7.5. Yeah, I'm going to agree with that. I mean, it is pretty solid. So I'll say 7.5 as well. I think that's pretty fair. Yeah, it looks like you guys are all pretty much agreeing. Okay, next up. Wait, that wasn't it. This is it. This is just an experimental page for interaction design. You'll find a prototype clip at the very end. Shoe branding page. We got some shoes here. All right, so I like this. Oh, this is a famous Unsplash photo. I actually used it in DesignCourse.com curriculum. So I like a lot what's happening here. However, I feel like this section where you have the color palettes, red isn't a good background to showcase those. So you might want to rethink that. Maybe put them into a container with rounded corners that goes around it, and I kind of move and adjust your type here as well. This is cool. Continuing on. So there's definitely promise here for sure. There's a lot of things happening right that I like, and some things that I think in terms of typography and potentially alignment that could be fixed as well. So for instance, what I mean is this color palette is way too close, and it's also not really aligned well with this section and this content here. All right, 1 being the worst, 10 being the best. What do y'all think this person should get just for what they presented? There's actually a lot of really high level design, but there's also some design that could be fixed as well. All right, Sam Nan, I will go back to that link after this. So I'm going to do like a 7.6, 7.5. Looks like some of you are saying a little bit lower. Yeah, maybe like a 7.2. I just keep on dwindling it down. All right, Sam Nan has updated it because it was broken at first. I hate how Figma does that. It'll create lines when you scale it out. Trying to get it to where they hide. There we go. All right. So, pretty solid navigation and headline up here. Having been an identity logo designer before, I'd probably rethink this. I'm not sure if you created the logo yourself. I would probably, if you're going to keep that little dev there, which I personally would just remove that whole bottom element with the line and where it says dev, these tiny things, I would push it down a little bit more. The icon looks pretty cool. There's some issues with the white space of this area, but this is UI UX, right? I'm not messing with logos. So stellar dev. So this is a thick, big font weight right here. A couple issues with it. First, it's the same exact color as the primary call to action. I would make this white instead. Or you can make the button white, but I would make the type white. And also, you're simply utilizing the most important piece of your ad copy, which is your headline, just to state the name, which they already know from up here and having possibly typed it in the browser. So I would actually utilize this for good ad copy, for a good strong headline. And outside of that, you may also want to adjust the color here, maybe a little bit more lighter. All right, so the rest of it is pretty solid up here. I also feel that this gradient on here is inconsistent with the rest of the colors potentially, especially over here. So maybe get rid of the gradient, simplify as much as possible, especially when it comes to logo design. Now, these white lines are probably not supposed to be here. No, they're not. There we go. So now what I would do is I would not make these bold. I would make those just a regular or even medium font weight. You create more of that visual hierarchy between these two bits of type. Everything else here looks pretty solid. Yeah, I don't know why Figma does that. And the rendering is off. All right, 1 being the worst, 10 being the best. I hope I'm not getting a fever. I do not want a fever. All right, so for this design, I'm going to give this a rating of, because I think it's pretty solid in many areas, like 7.2 or 7.3. Yeah, that's what I have to say. All right. Now, just because we are midway through the live stream, we've been streaming for 30 minutes. I'm going to spam you all with DesignCourse.com. Now, just during this stream, which is going to end in about 30 minutes, there's a discount code that you can use at the final step of the process, the checkout process, which is stream22 for 22% off of your entire order. And this is just released. My new UI UX design course that I've been working on for a year and a half, just released on the 4th of this month, so a week and a half ago. And you learned UI UX design through multiple ways: 16 hours of videos, 38 interactive tests in 12 projects. I thought that was 13, but I guess not. I think we'll add some more actually coming up. And also mentorship. So if you want me to look at your designs, I will actually do that. And in fact, I'm going to use that time right now to actually do a live mentor review. I have a bunch of submissions waiting that I have to get to here. So if I go to my mentor page right here, these are all the design submissions that are waiting. So basically there's challenge modules where I challenge people to design something like a small component or a full design, and I actually review them. So they submit a Figma prototype. So I'm going to click and see which one this is. Which module is this for? So this is for the module of a card and button design challenge. So let's see what this actually looks like. All right. Loading, loading, loading. All right. So here's like the challenge description. Again, there's 12 of these. And there's certain requirements, and there's thumbnails they can use for this one, and there's captions. So each challenge is different, and we start off relatively simple. I think this is the second or the third challenge. And what was provided by default was this design outside of these cards. So what I do is I take and copy if it needs a revision. Sometimes people submit work that's perfect, and I don't need to revise anything. People are trying to chat with me right now. And I paste it, and then I replicate it to show their original design. Let's change that background to get more contrast. And then I take a look at it and I say, okay, well, what is wrong about this design that could be improved? And then I provide an actual design refactor. So these are in card format. I would say right off the bat, I want to change the slightly extended 3% tracking, which is letter spacing. So I'm going to change that to 0 just to get back to default. Although, why did I say 25? 0. All right, there we go. And I'm also going to make them black. Well, maybe not black. And you know what? Many times if we want this to be a seamless card, I might just take this, get it to the front, get it on top of here, and then to increase contrast, I will add a linear gradient on the top of it. And that way, we change this to 100%, by the way. If we adjust this up just a bit, make sure that the type, where's the type, Daisy Fields, is white. Now look how much better that is compared to these other cards. And the visit destination button, it feels disconnected from the card overall. And there's also extended tracking, which I don't like. So I'm gonna fix that real quick. We'll change that from 8% to 0. We'll make this one white as well. And we're kind of running into the same issue of contrast. So maybe we could put it up above with a little icon, which I'll do in a second. Don't worry, I'm not gonna spend too much time on this. And then what I'll do is, we'll pull this down a little bit further. There we go. And then we will get a little icon here, like an arrow, and we'll put it right there. Scale it to 1 or 2, and put that back to 100%. Make it white. All right, and then put that right there. Maybe make it just a tad bit smaller. and I'll show them this. We'll get rid of that. Maybe increase this just a bit. And then just get rid of these because I can't replicate all of them. And then just show them how they could refactor this to try to make it a more seamless card that works. And then I'll leave a comment explaining what I did, and then go back here and submit it to them. They get an email notification with a rating, a quote, and the actual URL that I just reworked everything in. So definitely check that out. Stream 22, I'm going to disable that discount at the end of the stream. So definitely take advantage of that if you want access to the UI UX design course. All right, enough of that, and let's get started. I think this is the next one. All right, if something tells me I've seen this before, or maybe I just seen this particular effect for the typewriting effect. So I'm looking at this on a relatively large resolution here. So there's a lot of white space. So you want to try to use your front-end dev, your CSS specifically, to make sure you're scaling things up appropriately so you avoid this massive area of just empty white space. You would also want to containerize your navigation instead of keeping it 100% fluid, because on this large res, there's just too much space between your branding and your logo. So get them containerized like you've done here. So that means the logo would be right here, and then the navigation would be centered up over there. And so another great way to, like I said earlier in this stream, to break up the monotony of large white space areas like this, empty space, is to add texture of some sort. So that could be in the form of a pattern, it could be a watermark background, like a photo, or an illustration, just different graphical blips here and there. Unfortunately, there's nothing else. I was expecting to be able to scroll down, because you have not given me any discernible call to action outside of just don't forget to subscribe. Well, subscribe where? I have no clue. Okay, it does say I am a YouTuber, but you need to elaborate more. Like, I would like to see maybe thumbnails of your latest videos. I would like to know a little bit more outside of just this headline about what you do, maybe with a sub headline. So think about that. Rating, 1 being the worst, 10 being the best. What y'all think that this person deserves? Yeah, I am definitely sick. Not cool. Not fun. Ugh. Yeah, for what this is, just not enough content here. I'm going to have to rate this like a 6. Report who? I'm not sure what's happening. Am I not seeing something? All right, let's continue on. Let's just close this all out. Next up is T-Tech. All right, we got some animation here. Let's refresh this. Have some gradient card or like rectangles over here. So there's a lack of alignment here between this column and this column, vertically speaking, these little elements right here. You want to probably bring this one up slightly and then this one down slightly so it's not so close to this area. Too much white space between your actual nav items, so bring those closer together, push them over there that way a little bit. And also this could stand to be a little bit larger for your headline. Next up, projects. Take a look at my recent work. So whenever you have type that's sitting over on top of a photograph, you have to make sure that you have good contrast. All right, so you can achieve that in multiple ways, because right now this is hard to read. So you can achieve it by darkening the image itself. You can probably, like what I did in that previous example on the mentor program, I added a gradient on top, which you can achieve with CSS, pseudo elements. And then that way you can make this completely white, and then this would be dark down here. All right, so this section here is pretty good. And for some reason, your icons are not centered aligned with these two elements, which are center aligned. So that lack of alignment throws off the flow of the layout. So you want to make sure that those are aligned. Name, email, message. A little bit hard to read these labels. You might want to rethink the font, especially for a smaller type like this. For these, larger font, I think it's a nice font. Same issue here. You have some type of alignment. There's no white space above, and it's kind of intersecting with the bottom of the picture. So make sure you get that fixed as well. 1 being the worst, 10 being the best. What y'all think this person should get for a rating? Also, make sure that your breakpoint here happens sooner, or maybe not sooner, because you still have a lot of room to work with here. But watch what happens. They're getting condensed up like that, which makes it basically not useful at all. So if somebody is using a large phone or maybe a tablet of some sort, this is what they have to work with, which would be very frustrating. So for this, there's some cool things happening on scroll. This is the best section, in my opinion, right here. So I'll give this one about a 6.1 or so, which seems consistent with what you are all saying as well. Next up, I've definitely seen this one probably like 4 times. They want me to check out the contact page though, and there are issues rather. So whenever you have text fields, and especially text areas like this right here, you need to give more of an indicator of where a person should be able to tap or click with a cursor inside of that text field or the text area. It can't just be an underline. I know that was a thing with material design. I think they did that. I don't agree with it because there have been studies that show that some people think it's just a line separator. Like they don't even think it's an area where they can type in. So it becomes an accessibility, usability issue. So what you want to do is wrap this all up here in an actual outline all the way around, and or change up the background color so that it becomes a discernible area. Now, these should definitely be floating labels. I can kind of tell they are. If I click here in email address, it moves up. That's better. All right. So that's going to be my main issue here. Outside of that, I'm going to be honest with you. CAPTCHAs on contact forms, or pretty much almost anywhere, is very annoying. I would remove it. What I would do is just create an actual email address for this contact form alone and deal with the spam that comes in inevitably. Because at the end of the day, you want it to be as easy as possible for people to contact you, especially potential employers or potential clients. So these robot things can be a real pain in the butt when you have to solve the little grid system and move things around. It's such an annoyance. And then the final thing I will say is the send button is too understated, especially when these secondary elements are styled exactly the same. So you can make this one larger and maybe adjust these differently. Maybe invert it with darker type with just a very slightly shade darker of the background it's sitting on. And that way you create that visual hierarchy. All right. 1 being the worst, 10 being the best. What do y'all think? Let's see what this form does when we scale it down. It's pretty good. It collapses, so that's good at least. I will wait for your comment. Somebody says -10. That is just too mean. Yeah, so for this contact form and the usability issues that we have at present, I'm going to go ahead and rate this like a 5.7. I guess I'm being too generous based on what most of you are saying. All right. Next up is currently in process of designing this website for a dating/business networking company. Okay, so overall, I like the headline here, or not the headline, the navigation. Real nice, thick, big, strong headline. I like that a lot as well. Maybe make that join button a little bit like wider just to give it a little bit more space. And then I definitely don't like, I mean, I like the little chat blips overlay, but I don't like the fact that they're transparent. It kind of just makes it too busy. What I would do instead is either just make them completely 100%, no transparency. That way you can read them a little bit easier. And or just change the color that you're using, but definitely don't make it transparent regardless of what you're using. Connect, meet, create. Simple, good white space here. I would probably increase the font size of your descriptions just a bit. I don't know though. They say you should never mix business with pleasure. So business and dating, I don't know about that. Maybe it's something. Okay. All right, so most of it is pretty decent here. So it's definitely a pretty strong design, just a few small things. What do you all think this person should get for a rating? I'm waiting for the ratings. It has a lot of potential. And it's pretty solid for as is. So definitely above a 7. Not a 3, not a 5.5. I mean, this is pretty solid. So I'm thinking, yeah, like Grunt is right. It's more like, a mid to upper 7, I would say. Especially these lines right here don't actually exist. It's because of Figma. I don't know why their rendering is off. These white borders are not supposed to be here. He did not design those. All right, so for me, yeah, like I said, like mid 7s, 7.7 or so. All right, next up. Meta Gods, GAWDS. We got a Web3 website here. That's a cool photograph. It's not a photograph. It's a digital, 2D digital illustration. So let's refresh this. All right, I like the nice subtle type down here. Let's scroll down. So maybe this just isn't finished yet because it's not bringing those blurs to focus. But I like the actual design is pretty solid. Larger type here. You have large type here, relatively speaking, but then this is too small, in my opinion. So, and also you would want to increase. So let's fix this part. Let's bring this out. And it's also a pretty large amount of type. So increase contrast and increase font size to at least 18 pixels, and then line height. Maybe to like 25 or 24 pixels. Of course, you don't want to use pixels though. Use rem units. Something like this is better if we refresh it. Yeah, so I would also reduce the amount of type here. This is quite a bit to read. You can include that in the actual, like if you have a dedicated about page. Same issue with this type here. Not enough leading or line height. But overall, a lot of good things happening here. You could possibly think about making these white instead of this orange color. There's a lot of orange occurring here and all these. So yeah, maybe something. Maybe move it down just a tad bit to break it outside of the bottom. Okay, pretty solid. What do y'all think this person should get? 1 being the worst, 10 being the best. I've actually tried my hand at 2D digital illustrations in the past. Let me get that up. Oh, well, I forgot. I can't even find it. 1 being the worst, 10 being the best. What do y'all think? I do not want to be sick. I don't want to be sick. Yeah, this is pretty solid. Just some type issues here. I think we'll give this like a 7.9 or close to an 8. if not an 8. All right, next up, a portfolio. I am feeling nauseous. Sucks. All right, let's refresh. Okay, subtle animation down here, I think. Issue of alignment for sure, and possibly white space up here. So I would, yeah, it seems like for some reason, like this stuff down here should be just shifted over to the right, like you forgot to add a center class or something in your CSS, because you want this about me to fall in line with this column established on the left side of your headline type or your hero section type. So I would move those kind of over just to fix that issue alignment. Also, more white space above this section and your navigation. So just an issue of alignment. This seems pretty good right here. I have no other issues with this. The type's pretty good. Visual hierarchy's working. Just align that stuff properly, I would say. 1 being the worst, 10 being the best. What do you think? Yeah, you know, I see a lot of people use. I mean, this isn't like really bad or anything. I've seen there's a few libraries that people I think overuse, and you could definitely stand to use more interesting, better. I'm screwing around with my hair. My hair's going crazy. I should look at myself. Probably look ridiculous. Anyhow, but there's certainly people can certainly use better illustrations many times. But this one's not too bad. So for me, the big thing that's going to hurt the point score is this issue of alignment here. If everything was aligned well, it would definitely be, you know, like a point and a half higher. So I'm just going to say for what this is, you know, like a 7 or so. It would be close to an 8 otherwise. The good thing is that's a quick fix. I like the type. Let's see what font that is. Let's just scale this up. Let's refresh, see any animation. And I don't think there was. So, play fair display. Okay. I'm not sure what this is. It looks like a link that somebody should be able to click, but you can't actually click it. So I would not underline that. If this is a logo, I would probably want to rethink that. Because the logo should, on a website header, should be a link itself just to help people get back to the homepage. Make this more obvious. It's really thin. Just make it bolder or something like that. So now we have issues, multiple issues with clutter, lack of white space, and the high contrast buttons everywhere. Just make it, and also this dotted dash right here makes it way, way too busy. So you want to simplify things as much as possible. So I would get rid of these. I would add a lot of white space between these 3 different rows and get rid of these having so much high contrast. And also always have a contact, always have an actual form that people can contact you at. So that sometimes, sorry, so that people can contact you. I was reading something off on my other monitor. 1 being the worst, 10 being the best. What y'all think? Yeah, I do not like skill bars either. I've done a whole video on that on the YouTube channel about why I don't think people should do that anymore. It's called what font. So it's what font, all one word. A lot of, and I would definitely say maybe don't put the scroll indicator over here. Usually just put it down near the bottom, and then that way you free this area up to have some sort of interesting illustration or something. So for me, the best part is up here because it's so simple. There's a lot of potential. But I'm going to rate this one probably just like a 6 point, or 6 maybe, or a 5 point. Especially looking at this, you know, definitely maybe even in like a upper 5s or something, or mid 5s. All right. Probably do a few more. Maybe 2 more. I could just feel myself getting sicker. Hopefully this doesn't last as long as freaking COVID did. All right, thanks a lot, Grunt, for the super chat. Okay, so I'd say an issue with the type here, because you have 2 different ideas. You said, you know, this is really your headline, and then this right here, what I would do is take all this stuff. Let me see how you've structured this. I might be able to do it for you. We're going to delete that. We're going to delete this. And then we're going to take this. And what was the original? Let me come over here. Type. Also, you want to fix that English there. Hi, I'm... We'll put a comma. And I build great web presences. Wait, let me put that S there. And then we don't want to text align it. Well, you could do it right possibly, but we want it over here or left aligned. In here, creating 2 columns essentially. So that's what I would do. Or you could text align center. You could text align center and then center this graphic underneath it or underneath the view projects. Now these cards, I would say definitely feel outdated. I think, honestly, at this point, get rid of the laptops and the phones for presenting your work. Just stick to something much more simple like a rectangle. But the way this is designed, this is kind of like an older school approach where you have, you know, kind of like this bottom bar, like a footer of the card, high contrast, not much white space around everything. So you need to kind of rethink these cards. Go to dribble.com, DRIBBLE.com, and just type in card designs and try to get some inspiration in that way. Get rid of the extended letter spacing. Just leave it to the default font. And if I type in here, they are at least floating, so that's good. A little bit inconsistent white space. Notice how it's over quite a bit and then not enough on the top. You want this to be equal. 1 being the worst, 10 being the best. What y'all think? This is the original. So for me, I'm going to go ahead and give this a rating of about 5.3. All right. We're going to do one more, and that lucky person is Codit. Or unlucky, depending on how you view it. Unfortunately, their website's not loading. I'll give it 5 more seconds, but I have to move on. It's not loading. Sorry, gotta move on. I know that probably stings, but I am sick and we're almost out of time. All right, what was said about this one? Nothing. All right, so let's just take a look at this one. All right, so decent enough. I'm not sure. I don't think I like the type that much. I think a different font would work there because you are using a different font here. This is Poppins. I would change this to Poppins as well. It'd be much more consistent typographically speaking. Too much line height here, or tracking, or leading rather, on this area. Shorten that up because you have it set at 45. I don't think I can, oh, I can adjust it. Something like that works a little bit better. And then you could take these 2 elements, move them up along with these. Now you move them there. We could move this up slightly. Obviously, you don't want that to happen. There we go. Now we take everything, move it down. There, now we've really filled out that area a lot more. So you want to elaborate on these outside of just saying geography and an icon. Give yourself a paragraph to work in there. You could take these links right here and take the background color, change it from white, so we know now we're working within the same hue. Now we just adjust this. That way you create a little bit more hierarchy between these two elements. It's a very subtle difference, but I think it works well. This section, again, you want to add like an actual paragraph, a few sentences to elaborate on these titles. All right, 1 being the worst, 10 being the best. What y'all think? Oh, where did the chat go? There we go. All right, so for me, I'm going to give this a rating here of, yeah, probably like a 6.7. All right, awesome stuff. Snort Designs. To answer your question about Adobe XD, I am planning on doing a shorter Adobe XD course, and it's going to be purely like project based. And I may reuse some of the modules like the tests just to integrate that there as well, and maybe even challenges that are specific. If people want to join Mentor as well. So I'm hoping here in the springtime sometime we'll release that course. That's going to be the next one I actually work on. All right. So one last time, your very last chance to take advantage of the Stream 22 discount, which will be retired in a few minutes. And essentially what that will give you is access to DesignCourse.com, the new UI UX curriculum. I don't like saying course because courses for a lot of creators are fleeting and they produce a bunch of them. This is going to be continuously maintained when Figma updates and also just with new content in terms of design in UI UX and with trends and all that good stuff. So it just released January 4th. It's video, 16 hours worth. It is also UI tests. If you want to know what that is, click play now. You can see some of those tests. They're a fun way to learn fundamentals. And then also optionally, you can add on as a subscription for $29 per month of mentorship, where I look at your designs, your design submissions, because there's about 12 different challenges, design related challenges. You work in Figma, you submit them, and then I look at them. In most cases, I revise them and provide comments. So it really helps give you direct feedback as a way to really improve as a UI UX designer. So you click down here to enroll, which incoming chat right here. It's not $99. You can apply a launch coupon code to get 15 off. However, don't do that. Right now, if you join within the next like 10-15 minutes, you can also put Stream 22. And you can get $22 off at checkout. And you can optionally add on Design Mentor. You can add it on later too. You don't have to buy it now. You can add it on anytime from within the members area. So that is enough of my personal spam. One good thing about this though is I'm not taking on sponsorships hardly anymore at all. Now I can designate my channel, my YouTube videos, to promoting what I'm putting out there. And also, if you go to designcourse.com/CSS, you can enter your email to be notified when the interactive CSS course releases later in the year. All right, so awesome. I'm gonna get going. I'm sick. I might have a fever. My lungs feel weird. This sucks, but it is what it is. So I'm gonna cut this now. We've already gone an hour anyhow, so I will see you all very shortly. All right. Now I have to do this awkward silence where I try to find my tab and end the stream. All right. Goodbye, everybody.